more that you can lean into your own personal discomfort, say what needs to be said in a non-offensive way, the more you make the world a better place. All right, everyone. Welcome to Tuesday Live at 5 with Jumpstart Mastery. I'm Andy Prisco, coming to you from my backyard, where it's actually 5:09. I apologize for being a little late today, but given the topic, it's probably safe to reveal that I was actually performing my duties as an elected official here in the community in which I live in, and I think today's topic is appropriate. Election season stress. Maybe you're experiencing it in your home, in your family, in your workplace, where candidates and representatives are vigorously discussed, points and platforms are discussed. This can bring about either salutary effects, knowing where people stand politically to you, or it might create discomfort because you discover someone in your workplace, perhaps, or your community, or maybe even in your own family, has a different political worldview than you do. And what does that mean? Sadly, we're in an era where we have become very, very polarized on the subject of politics. And while it's always been the brunt of jokes or slogans, we don't discuss politics at the dinner table, and we don't discuss politics at holidays. And there are movies that feature scenes where political conflict results in family disruption. We're starting to see some interesting images come out of the political landscape now, where people who are actively campaigning against one another will do a joint commercial. And they say things like, we can be competitors in a political race, but we can also respect one another and have relationship. And thank goodness that there are more and more political officials who are now coming out talking about this idea of difference. What difference can you accept in your own personal life? Can you maintain friendships with people that have different political worldview or have voted for certain candidates in any public office or race that you're not supportive of? The more that I age, the more that I am challenged with the responsibility to hold things in tension in the same space, to not be binary. What it really comes down to, I'd say more than anything else, is emotional regulation. Am I able to maintain relationship with someone? And to what degree of depth can that relationship be maintained if they stand somewhere else on, let's say, abortion, if they stand somewhere else on immigration and borders, if they stand somewhere else than I do on LGBTQ, for example? To what degree can I suspend relationship damaging positions on those matters in the service of relationship? An interesting observation: in austerity, in austere environments, places where the demand for survival becomes shared, what's interesting is that those kinds of barriers in relationship diminish. It's only when everyone's basic needs are met that those barriers seem to increase, either in their frequency or their potency. So, what's the message for today? I would ask folks to consider how important relationship is to them. If relationship is important to you, you might consider, before the next event where you learn there's difference, you might consider in advance where you're going to stand on your commitment to relationship based on these issues. So you're at least clear-minded about it rather than reactive. I'm sure that you have seen very reactive people when they learn about political difference in their relationship with someone. I never knew that about you. You voted for that guy. You stand here on that issue. You believe this. And then people immediately become demonized in the moment. That's reactionary. Whereas someone might have thought twice if upon, let's say I'm on the receiving side of that. Let's say someone is reactive who learns something about me. If I've prepared for this moment, I am not going to fuel that emotional arousal by, let's say, doubling down on my belief. I absolutely believe that. This is why I believe that. I want to think about the impact that's going to have on the relationship. How important is this relationship? If I'm watching somebody become dysregulated, whether it's about political worldview or anything else, the prescription here is the same. My job is to model and embody self-regulation while being true to myself. It doesn't mean I'm going to lie. Oh, no, I don't believe that when I really do. Well, wait a minute. I maybe I do believe that, but it looks like you're upset with me right now. And I'd like to be of some service to you in letting you know that I care about our relationship. So what can we do to solve the emotional regulation problem that seems to be coming up right now, instead of getting into the political worldview? How often have you seen people become absolutely caustic with one another over these issues? I would contend that almost all of it is reactionary. You'll either see someone getting very, very animated or someone just smoldering, being super quiet because they really don't know what to say. Or maybe they're committed to not fueling it, but they're just white knuckling it through the interaction. Whatever the case might be, here are the recommendations. If there is stress and conflict over political worldview, engage it during periods when there is less emotional arousal, not when there is elevated emotional arousal. What is the time constraint that it has to be dealt with during someone's reaction? Where is the stopwatch saying, I have to correct this right now? Like, I don't know where that is. I've never seen a stopwatch show up in political debate. If someone is becoming emotionally animated to the extent that they can't accept room for difference, that's the problem, not the subject matter. The subject matter is irrelevant. The idea here is to reduce emotional arousal so we can have a cogent conversation. Can someone disengage and then come back and say, wow, look, it appears that you're very, very upset upon learning that I'm of a different political worldview. Relationship is really important to me. How about I step away from this and we find another time to re-engage it when everything's cool? That way, maybe you can better understand why I've landed on the position I've landed in, and I can better understand yours. That's a VDSP for kicking the can down the road. It doesn't mean that I'm being untrue to myself. I'm not lying. I'm simply observing what might be unregulated emotional arousal, and I'm deferring to relationship rather than ideological clash. If we had people do that more frequently, I think there'd be a lot less stuff on social media that seems to capture people's attention. Remember what animates the nervous system. It's the triggers to the risk circuitry, risk of acceptance, risk of abandonment, risk of safety, risk of feeling secure. These are triggers that animate limbic system and emotional arousal. The idea here is to engage difference from a state of emotional regulation. It doesn't matter if it's politics or not. So the message within the message today is election season stress, the prescription doesn't change. The election is not the issue is not about the election. The issue is not about the politics. The issue is about, can we as two people engage in a regulated conversation about difference? And can we accept difference? And the way to prepare for those things is to, let's say, pre-game what you're going to do if someone discovers your political thoughts or position and they begin to have emotional arousal about it. And let's say they begin to get into appraisals, negative appraisals. There's a reason that expressions of political ideology are anchored in all kinds of codes of conduct in employers across the country, because what it seems to instigate is a reactionary interaction. And the prescription in any de-escalation context is to diffuse the reaction, not even diffuse the substance. Let's diffuse the reaction. Let's diffuse this idea that we have to deal with this right now. There is no stopwatch. There is no clock. We can come back to this later, and we can try to have a conversation in a more meaningful way. And you may discover that the other person is not capable of doing that right now. Well, then you may need to decide, do we leave politics out of the relationship? And oh, by the way, lots of people do that. They suspend the need to have that enter into the relationship, and they respectfully agree to disagree. And they regulate their relationship around things that are shared or common. This even happens in many marriages, by the way. There are lots of people who are married who have different political persuasions. How do they get that to work? Well, one of the ways that they police that is, we're not going to discuss politics at the dinner table because we know that that can be incendiary. And if we do discuss politics, we're going to make a commitment to relationship first. So consider VDSP and OFNR for these moments where, while the context is political, the prescription doesn't change. The first obligation is to regulate. Carrie Fisher said it this way: regulation before expectation. If I expect someone to hear me, we need to be regulated first. And the transition is the task. How do I transition from this moment, which is reactionary, to a set of conditions that allows us to co-regulate and then potentially re-engage the discussion? That's our prescription and our recommendation for you today. Kind of a short one, but not too short, 13 minutes. I hope all is well with you, and all of the very best to all of you this week. We have a lot going on the political landscape. UFOs, files, disclosure, elections, all kinds of animated remarks coming out of people. Regulation before expectation. Keep that in mind. The world will be a better place. All the very best to you. See you on Thursday at the Jumpstart Mastery Network, where we're going to get into conflict at work, navigating tension with clients and coworkers, particularly for those who are working in human services. Take good care.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
More that you can lean into your own personal discomfort, say what needs to be said in a non-offensive way, the more you make the world a better place.